2.5 years, based in beautiful Amsterdam. And we've got a glimpse into the buy side right now, and now I want to change our perspective into the publisher side and the business and our vision that we have, and to understand the publisher's needs and struggles nowadays. So please let me introduce you to our next speaker, our Director of Marketplace Products. Some of you might know him from social media or his beautiful articles on AdOps Insider, where he really wants to provide a source of information for publisher operations. He really understands the publisher's needs and solutions. So please welcome my colleague, Kneen.
Thanks, Sabrina. Nice to be with everyone here this morning. As Sabrina said, I play a publisher on the internet. Soon you'll hear from a real one. But I wanted to take a few minutes and just sort of set a backdrop to the conversation that they're going to have, and just give a little more insight on how we think about the publisher environment right now. And as Nigel said, I would say in a word, it's challenging, quite challenging. And I think this chart really sort of explains why. So if you look at this chart, it's really an internal model that we built that describes how publishers are currently making money over the last, really the current decade that we're 8 years into. So in 2010, the way you were selling, if you were in the industry, and you remember back in 2010, you might have had 2 or 3 sales channels. Really, let's be honest, you only really cared about 2 of them. 8 years later, fast forward, you really have more like 6 or 7 sales channels that you need to care about. All these sales channels have different buyers. They have different technology platforms you might need in order to access them. You need to have different strategy, different pricing. There's all kinds of additional complexity that you as a publisher now have to grapple with. And then I guess also, by the way, there's this GDPR thing out there that is adding another layer of complexity to your business. So if you wanted to start to tackle this problem and approach it, I would start to break it down in a few different ways. You as a publisher would really need to have both a commercial and operational and sort of a technological strategy around addressing this sales channel fragmentation problem in your business. And technology is certainly part of the solution. We're a technology company. We hope you think technology is part of the solution, but it's not everything, right? We can build amazing low latency, high scale systems, but if you want to, chuck 12 client-side header bidders on your site, that's going to have some clear impacts to your user experience, right? We can build amazing pricing and yield algorithms for you, but if you want to enable those to make terrible decisions, definitely no one in this room is doing that. That's what the technology will do. I think you also need the expertise to execute whatever your strategy is. So, publishers, I think, historically outsourced a lot of these sales channels in the past, right? You sort of would say, well, for my network demand, I'll just dump a bunch of inventory onto this network. I'll get a nice check at the end of the month. That's all well and good. But now if you actually see that sales channel went from 20% of your business to 40% of your business, you can't really afford to ignore it anymore. And if you've not been paying attention to it, if you don't have the data to extract out of it, then how are you actually going to get your arms around it and control it, right? Like there's plenty of platforms out there that will write you checks at the end of the month, but will they provide you log-level data? Will they provide that log-level data with a key to their ad server? It seems like no, they won't by design. Why would that be? They probably don't want you to analyze that business, right? So, those are the things that I would start to think about. And on partner management, we've got amazing tools like YieldX that can connect through APIs to all your different systems, give you insight on what the seasonality of your business is, what the, density of demand in your business is, where the buyer interest is across all these sales channels. But you've got to have the people time to actually analyze that information and make decisions based on it to really value, extract value from that technology at the end of the day. So, as you're looking at these commercial, these operational, these technology-based decisions, the first thing I would do on the commercial side is build a sales channel strategy. You've got to have some kind of idea on, well, how do I want to participate in these sales channels? What do I want to sell? How do I want to price it? And that's going to drive what the technology enables at the end of the day. On the operational side, I think you've got to have an analytically and technically minded team. You're going to be working with more platforms and partners than you ever have before. The team that you need in 2018, 2019, 2020 is not at all the team that you needed in 2010. But you've got to have those people in place to make good decisions with your technology, and it's going to be based on the sales channel strategy that you set. And then finally, I think you really need technology to keep your edge. So, I know a lot of people in the room, are not prepared to do what you really should do, which is just switch ad servers, by the way, because the ad server that you're probably using was built in 2010 to handle 2 or 3 sales channels, and they knew you were only paying attention to 2. And it's not really built to handle, 7 sales channels, of which really, they'd like you to not participate in 5 of those channels, right? So we've been stitching and adding and hooking things up to your, existing ad server for years and years, but it's not really designed to do it. It doesn't really want you to do that. We're really building technology that enables you to participate and benefit from all those sales channels. But even if you can't, totally switch ad servers, there's still a lot of ways that you can benefit from best-in-class technology on video, on native, on all the rest of the interesting things that we're working on. And I think, it kind of comes down to these sorts of features. I mean, most traditional ad servers that you would see in the market, they only do 1 or 2 of these things, right? And we can really do all of these things. I think, just to give you kind of a quick example that we see in the market right now, like Google's First Look product is a really interesting product from my perspective because what is the First Look product designed to do? Well, it's designed to let programmatic buy in front of guaranteed at high prices in order to maximize your yield. That's kind of what I thought enhanced dynamic allocation was designed to do, right? So if enhanced dynamic allocation was designed to do that, and that's not what it does, and that's why you need First Look, like, what are we doing here, right? So, these are the features that we're investing in. This is our view of what publishers need and how we think, publishers should be addressing the challenges in market. And, we're really excited to tell you more about these offerings. We're going to unpack this a little bit more in some of the breakout sessions. So if you're interested in understanding more about, well, how do I build a sales channel strategy and, like, why do I need these features, we're going to talk about that in more detail during our breakout. So with that, I'm going to hand it back. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so. Is my mic on? Thank you so much, Ben. So we heard about our vision and our strategy, and we of course want to share a real detail example from one of the biggest publishers in Europe, Axel Springer. Some of you might have heard of it. And we have no other today here than the Chief Digital Officer from Axel Springer. He is very innovative and very forward-thinking in the digital advertising community. So please welcome Carsten on stage. Yeah, it's working.
First disclaimer, it's not me, it's my team.
Your team, yes. So you might not see it from my fresh holiday tan, but maybe my last name gave you a glimpse that I'm originally German. And ever since I've been in contact with media, Axel Springer was definitely top of mind. But some of you might not be familiar with your business. So maybe quickly introduce your company and yourself.
Yeah. Media Impact is the media sales organization of Axel Springer. We're number 2 in the German market with roughly 44 million unique users. So big German news outlets like Bild, Welt, biggest finance portal, Finanznet, Business Insider, Update, one of the biggest mobile app. And we are roughly 400 people. And it's still a significant revenue stream for Axel Springer. And I have the privilege to lead the digital team there.
Great, so thank you for being here. So you switched ad server to AppNexus a while ago, and you've been very vocal about your strategies for like a year or so, specifically about this article in the back, which was published like 2 weeks ago. And in this article, you encourage publishers to think the unthinkable. So that's also the claim of the session. So what do you exactly mean with think the unthinkable?
Yeah, perhaps second disclaimer. We are not paid for this, and we do not get special rates for that. really, when we started thinking about the team with the project, right, we had a history at Axel Springer, I can tell you. We used to own our ad server. We had a special cooperation scheme with Google. So it was a complete, utter, funny history we had there. And if this whole project if it hadn't worked out, I wouldn't be sitting right now here. So why are we so vocal about it? Because when we also started talking about all the other publishers, the prime reaction was, how dare you? How could you? It's not possible. I mean, dynamic allocation, it's marvelous. I have to say, one very important partner of us and whom we like to share a lot our thoughts and which I give great credit in implementing this way is Schmidt. So they were, so to say, the first ones. We, so to say, jumped on it. And why is it so good? Because we just do have more flexibility, and in times like these where regulation authorities might change views 5 weeks before the new law, it's all about being flexible, agile, and not sitting on some sort of tech where you do not have influence, right? And the best thing I can tell you is you guys are really neutral, you have your own view, but you're a partner with whom you can discuss and develop things. And this is what we very much appreciate.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that feedback. So in your new strategy, so what were your main goals? So what led you to the strategy to change your ad server? What was your outcome that you were hoping for?
We wanted to have, of course, a holistic ad tech stack. It's all about the fragmentation, what we've just seen. We wanted to have more in-depth data. The log level data we receive is very important for us in terms of understanding better our clients' needs, how we can react, how we can create our own products. And in all of those areas, I can say after the first quarter, we are fine with our results, right? So yield is significantly up. We have much more to think about thanks to the data we have right now in terms of dynamic pricing and all of those issues we are working on. And this is, so to say, just a very good base to continue the development there, yeah.
And I believe also it was a really important step for you to be less reliant on Google and one sole ad tech solution, right?
I mean, I'm not here for Google bashing, right? I mean, they are still an important partner for us, right? Sure. And we integrated them as well in our tech stack, of course. I mean, how you just cannot reject them, right?
No, of course.
But of course, according to our rules, right? Not to theirs. So that's all about what we also try to publish in the white paper. And of course, we are not stupid. I mean, from a demand side point of view, it's just still an important source. But now, the next couple of weeks ahead, think about DBM, what might be happening with GDPR. I mean, it's just good to have different sources and that you are not too dependent on one or two partners, right? Dependency on one or two partners is just, from our experience, a very bad thing.
Yeah, so it's about taking control and have the holistic optimization that we also heard from Ben. So you've been very vocal. Is there any feedback that you received from the market, including Google? Maybe did you get positive feedback about your actions?
I will say that in a second. The reactions to this white paper we were amazed, right? I mean, it was not just we said, hey, it's a strategic push and we won't know. No, it's just, hey guys, it was primarily the team where I said, you've done such marvelous work. Hey, let's share, right? Because it's all about getting the ecosystem back in place, right? I mean, also we as Axel Springer, we're just not selling lemons, right? I mean, it's just because it's content, it's freedom of speech, it's objectivity. And if we do not get the ecosystem right, I mean, we're in deep trouble. And even though Nigel does not like to see perhaps this skip between client and publisher revenue, in comparison to other media channels, there is still an issue for us as publisher, right? And we are working very hard on that. And we had one journalist who was in prison one year, another journalist was shot. So we very much feel that we have the necessity to keep this business model alive. And that's why we are so passionate about it, and also like to talk with all partners within the markets to get the market back in place, yeah.
Yeah, for an open and transparent marketplace.
Exactly.
Great. And yeah, you mentioned your white paper in which you also go more into detail of your current setup, so how you integrated Google into that. So we hear about that later in a breakout session with your CTO, Timo Nolte. So if you have questions about it, please reach out. So what are, in your opinion, the biggest takeaways from that setup?
Yeah, and I didn't want to skip the latter question. Google, of course, as always, said, hey, great, we are still integrated there, so we could use this case, of course, for us as well with difficult partners so that we are still part with them, right? They are just smart people, right?
Sure they are.
So, and it's okay. And in other areas, in terms of paid subscription, we are working very fine with them. So we are really experts at Axel Springer in frenemy relationships, and Google is definitely one of our sincerest frenemies. So sorry, what was your question?
No, but maybe let's quickly jump on that. So did you also get feedback from other publishers like, hey, really great what you're doing, can you share with us, so that they reached out to you and say, let's have a chat?
Timo could meet every week now with a European publisher. And I always say to him, hey guys, only those with whom we have also some sort of business interest, because we have still many things on our roadmap. So the demand or the requests are skyrocketing, yeah.
Great, so they want to learn about how you did it, how the setup is. So some people here in the room might be a little bit afraid about an ad server migration. I think for some of you this might be a horrible thought. You did it, you really took the step, and how did it go?
Ask Timo, but really it was really like all the others said, it's a nightmare project, 12 months, you will have the full quarter, the full year will be crappy. We did it in 3.5 months, so I think overall 44 different portals, over 35,000 groups, which it was overall, and we did it on top of that in Q4, stupid enough, to have real challenges on top of it, but it really worked out. I mean, of course, there are some things that are not immediately working fine, but that's then good if you have teams with whom you can speak that are really contactable. And I would say it in a different way if it hadn't worked that way, but it was that you have been always very reliant and responsive, so it was really good. And 3.5 months, that was the migration period, 3.5 months.
That's quite amazing. That's a lot faster probably than most people would think of. So the whole process and the whole migration and your strategy, so what are your key takeaways for that?
Key takeaways. Really control your own inventory. It's just a very simple phrase, but even we at Axel Springer are not at this place right now there. I think about all the integrations our publishers also have sometimes with Outbrain, Taboola, whatsoever, right? So this is still a constant challenge. API first, really, to get the stuff so deeply integrated according to your rules and to your own setups. And really imply the whole team, not only restrain it to, so to say, the ad techs or the campaigning guys. We really made a whole mission out of that, and it was really reviving the whole organization that we could I mean, we were stuck in a sort of setup where we always try to optimize some small little things, and there was so many frustrations level within the organization. And to really have now from new the opportunity, a white paper where you really can start new things is just also from a motivational point of view for the whole team has been significant, yeah.
Great, so I assume a lot of positive vibes now also between the teams, so really great to hear. And this was not only for display, right? This was also for your video business.
Video as well, yeah. Video is now also working via you guys, via your platform. I mean, still, if I can once say one thing, I mean, how many people from the buy side are here? On the buy, okay, brilliant, cool. Really, penetration of the AppNexus DSP still, at least also in Germany, an ongoing issue. So I can only also invite you guys there because from my point of view, it's a great opportunity to get least to inventory like us. There are even easier access and to it. This is still a big topic for us right now there in Germany because there are still some skeptical people on the buy side. This is another challenge we have to tackle this year from my point of view.
Okay, so you're working on it and more to come soon. Another challenge in the German market as well, and we heard it now quite a few times, is GDPR. It's about taking ownership about your inventory, about your technology, but also about your data, right? So how is, in your opinion, the German market, but also Axel Springer, preparing for GDPR, and how do you feel that it's going to be in the next weeks and months after the 25th of May?
Yeah, very good question, and one has to adjust or add that Germany is, so to say, a holistic village still, because we did not implement the e-privacy directive, right? So the whole of Germany is still an opt-out market, and it will be also remain an opt-out market after the 25th of May. We do always rather see those circumstances like big chances for us, right? So it's very important that we have clear rules with our market partners. That's why we are sending out additional clarification letters right now. We are first party owner, full stop. That's important for us.
Yeah.
And first-party data will be even more valuable, and that is our prime goal to set this up with all the other partners. In terms of all the GDPR reaction, still it's still a moving target there in Germany. There are regulation authorities that switched their minds just 2 weeks ago. We do our best, but it's all about, from my point of view, being flexible, being agile, having the next smart moves. I mean, Google with their consent tool, which they just, I think, communicated 2 weeks ago without having any sort of pre-communication with publishers to that is also now creating a whole different dimension to it. People behind the scenes are going nuts right now. The Google guys do their classical appeasement policy with the local guys in the market. So, I mean, it's still a very, very interesting year, but that's why we're here, right?
Exactly. So thank you very much for that. So from all the experiences you had now with AppNexus and taking ownership and changing the strategy, so there are some publishers here in the room who might also think about, hey, I also want to make more money. What can I do? What are your big takeaways or your advice for publishers nowadays?
Think the unthinkable.
Think the unthinkable. Thank you for that, Carsten, for being here. Applause, please, for Carsten.